Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we finally do have more information coming from Elphapex regarding that DG Home 1, which is their at-home Scrypt ASIC that's been getting a lot of attention. We do finally have price points, we have shipping windows, so now we can really do a good comparison, compare it to the other ASICs, compare it to the other miners to see how this thing stacks up, especially from this at-home market, right? So things are kind of starting to heat up a little bit in this segment, and this is one that definitely has a lot of attention, including from me, right? So we're going to talk about it, we're going to look at profitability, and just kind of see if this thing makes sense, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So kind of seemed like it was coming very close. A lot of the vendors started listing placeholder prices. Did start seeing unboxing videos. There is one from BT Miners, although all the information in the video is horribly incorrect. I don't know who the heck did their video, but all the specs that they input in there are wrong. But they do have possession of it, as well as a few others, right? So it did seem like it was coming sooner than later, and now we do have a little bit more info. So they haven't put it officially on their site yet, but one thing right off the rip that is different is they did change the base specs. Initially it was 2 terahash or 2 gigahash. Now it's 2.1. Okay, so 2.1 at the same 630 watts. So notice that yesterday around midday, a lot of the vendors did start putting it up, but then got even more information from hobbyists. So shout out to Hobbyist Miner for giving us a little bit more info. So he did also have that 2.1 gigahash hash rate listed there. So delivery time, end of November to early December 2024. Okay, so definitely towards the end of the year. So the price point, they have it listed if you purchase it directly through them for $1,300 a unit. Still haven't found out where this unit is going to be shipping from, right? Is it going to be from overseas? Because if it is, then at that point we have to worry about those tariffs. So between the tariffs, it's going to be more worthwhile to get it from a reseller, right? But if it is $1,300 plus the shipping, so let's say $1,400, and there is no tariffs here, not bad, okay? Another thing to know is that it can be overclocked to 2.4 gigahash, so that's not bad, keeping that same efficiency. And it is confirming also that it's usable on 110 to 240 volt, right? So the PSU can be used on both things, just because there was a little bit of confusion, because again, some of those placeholder listings were listing it as 200 to 240, right, versus the 110. Okay, so pretty good stuff there. Again, huge shout out to Hobbyist for giving us that info, and keep up to date with him if you're interested in ordering from Elphapex. He's finding out, he's gonna try to get a deal going there to see if they could just do like an all-in price, right? But again, depending on where it's shipping from, it's going to change things. When we look at the resellers are going to be anywhere from probably $1,500 to $1,800 depending on who you purchase it from, and Hash has it at $1,600. And same shipping window. They do have the old hash rate though. It should be 2100 mega hash, but now we kind of have the consensus, right? It's going to be about 1600 from the resellers. So when we do a quick comparison, the most obvious comparison is going to be comparing it to the other at-home Scrypt ASIC, which is coming from Gold Shell. And they do have two models. They do have that newer one, but I wouldn't even factor that one in just because it makes more sense to go with the Mini Doge 3, because it's essentially the same thing, just at half the price, right? So now people are shilling the one that has the PSU integrated, but it makes zero sense. So we'll just compare it, because spec for spec, efficiency wise, it's pretty comparable, and it's going to make more sense to compare it at this, because this is the street price realistically for the Mini Doge 3. And again, the other guy being essentially the same thing, just clocked a little bit higher, similar efficiency, at double the price, makes zero sense. Okay, so we'll compare it to street prices of things, again, just to make this thing fair and to see if there's going to be value here. Okay, so just eyeballing it, easy comparison, because it's literally exactly 3 of these things. So 3 of these things, it's going to bring you up to 1200 watts, about the same price also, right? 379 shipped, it's going to be about 1200. So obviously you'd be able to squeeze another one in, but realistically the efficiency difference is pretty drastic, right? At this point, just easy math, it's twice as efficient, right? At this point, again, 3 of these is going to bring you to 2.1 gigahash at 1200 watts, again, in comparison to the 630 here. Okay, so it's literally just about twice as efficient, which again, if you're doing small scale at home ASIC mining, efficiency is going to be a big deal, right? Especially in this case. So comparing it to that, definitely better. If we compare it to the bigger boy units at current prices, it's actually not too bad either. So the key thing is though at current prices, okay? So we'll talk about what we mean by that here in a second. So if we look at it and we break it down to price per gigahash, right? Because efficiency wise, it's pretty much on par with the DG1 Plus. The DG1 Plus is actually about 10% more efficient, surprisingly. So this guy is 0.28 joules to megahash versus the 0.31. They have it listed as 0.3 actually, so a little bit less than 10%. 0.3 joules to megahash here. So pretty much in line. Where it gets a little bit different is when compared to the L9. And again, this guy is 0.21, right? So 0.21 in comparison to the 0.3 of the other guy. So it is kind of close. It's not something where it's a drastic difference like the gold shell unit where it's like twice as efficient. But it is a good difference. Just something to note of, right? But now let's compare pricing. Okay, so when we break it down, current pricing for the DG1 Plus, they have it at 9,500. We can ballpark it down to like 9,100, right? Most of the resellers have it in the low nines, including shipping for that. So when we compare it, let's break it down. So let's do 9,100. We're going to divide it by the 14. Yeah, it's 14 gigahash. $650 per gigahash. Okay. Now we can compare with the L9. The L9 is at 16 gigahash, and we're going to divide it by 11,000. That seems to be about the street price, which has been going down pretty much on a daily basis. And we did it backwards. So 11,000 dividing it by the 16 gigahash brings us to about 687. So bang for the buck wise, the DG1 Plus is better, but also the efficiency is better with the L9. Okay, so kind of close there. Now let's do it with the DG1 Plus. So let's do the $1,600 price point, dividing it by the 2.1, 761. So if we compare it to current prices, it's within like 10 to 12%. Okay, so realistically, again, is always going to be a premium for having that smaller slice of the pie. So it makes sense. So not too bad in that department. The downfall, though, is that realistically, again, this is a pre-order. This is a futures order for end of November, December. Okay, there's very steep discounts for the Scrypt ASICs for that time frame. So realistically, at current prices, if this thing were to sell tomorrow, it would be on par with those prices. There's currently a premium for getting in on the earlier batches of the L9 and the DG1 Plus. Where it gets tricky is, again, especially with the L9, is that the future orders are massively lower. Okay, starting in November, December, January, way lower prices, right? And what do we know about the DG1 Home? It's not shipping until November, December. So when we compare it to the futures pricing, that's where things do get different. Okay, so the DG1 Plus, they don't have it on their site, but a lot of the resellers do also have monthly reductions. Okay, starting in September actually with theirs. Okay, so just comparing it with the L9, because again, they're after coupon price, which is typically closer to the street price. So this November batch, we can add on a little bit. Let's bump it up to 8,500. Okay. So this, when we do this comparison, this is where things do change a little bit. So 8,500, we're going to divide it by the 16 gigahash. That brings us down to now $531 per gigahash. Okay. In comparison to the 760 for the DG1 Home. That's where things start getting a little bit skewed. Okay, so the DG1 Plus is also going to be reduced. I have a funny feeling that by the time this officially comes more into play, they're going to reduce maybe a little bit more. Maybe we'll have clearer numbers, because again, the only one I saw that out of the stores that does have different futures was BT miners. I have a feeling they're going to be lower than this though, but they do have, for example, September batch at 8,400, October at 79, November at 75.80. Okay, so again, when we compare it to these prices, which is where the comparison should be, that's where it gets a little bit different. Okay, so then at this point now, if we were to compare it to somewhere in this range, let's add 10%. Let's say it's up to 580. Multiplying by the 2.1, $1,200 would be more in line with those batches, right? So again, that's including adding 10% right there. Okay, so realistically, the target price would have been super nice at $9.99, like under $1,000, just because visually it looks better. That would be massively more appealing. That would be more of an insta-buy price. At the $1,500 range, realistically, it's still not bad, right? Should it be maybe a little bit lower to keep in line with these prices? Probably, like $1,300. Like if the ship price from the resellers was closer to that range, it would make more sense. Okay, so is it bad overall though? No, it's not a bad unit. Profitability wise isn't too bad either, although currently, again, you have to factor in we're still in this bear market mode. Okay, when we look at profitability, your daily income would be about $3. Factor in $1.50 for your electric, about $1.50 a day profit. When you look at it from that perspective, it is a little bit crappier, but also factor in everything else is on this level also, right? Even comparing it with like the jazz miners and such, this is about the range they are also. Price-wise also, even after this reduction, this is just where we're at in the market. Okay, so potentially, if you look at the bear market highs just recently back in March, we were over 20 cents, right? So you could factor that in. You can look at it from that perspective. When we do reach that, which could be by that time, I would not be surprised to see us at like a 25-cent Doge, because again, typically we go by the market cycles. Sometime either late September, maybe October, we could start going up, not parabolically, but we can start doing that uptrend. Will it happen? Won't it happen? We don't know. But when we look at overall profitability, like, yes, this is what it is currently, but again, the mine and hodl strategy is what kind of works with these things. So then at that point, you could say, okay, my income would, if it's at 20 cents, you could double this, right? So we can, easy math, we'll bring it up to $3. Subtract your electric, or up to $6. Subtract your electric, bring you to $4.50 profit a day. Okay. So at that point, looks more appealing, and just depending on how bullish you are, like we're saying that for the short term, but realistically, long term wise, I do expect to see at least potentially a 50-cent Doge some point in 2025, maybe higher. It just depends on how bullish you are. Again, I'm very conservative when I'm doing these numbers, when I'm looking at it, but just factor that in, right? Just consider that when you are looking at these profitability numbers. Another thing that a lot of people tend to mess up on when you're kind of doing that, when you're kind of looking at potential what it's going to be worthwhile, then, I think Doge is going to 2-3x, I'll do that. Do not just do that to your profitability number. This is a mistake that people have made over and over and over again. A lot of people miscalculated, like the BTC halving. A lot of people were just having the profitability number instead of the income number, and now are totally wrecked because of that. So factor that in. So like if you're being kind of bullish and saying, okay, I think Doge will double, you're not just simply doubling your profitability. You're doubling your income, and then your electric stays the same. Okay, so it's drastically different if you just double this and goes up to $2.75, when realistically you're actually doubling this, right? And then subtracting your electric, because by just doubling this, whether you're doubling it or halving it to account for a halving, you're doing your electric twice, and that's what skews the numbers. So remember to do that to your revenue, to your yield, and then act accordingly. Okay, just something to factor in there. So depending on your viewpoint, depending on how you're looking at it, that's how I would see it. Because again, if you're trying to like ROI or do calculations, within 12 months, we're gonna be in the bull market, right? If you believe in the bull market cycles, which if you're here, I'm sure you do, things are gonna look drastically different. And that's how I would kind of look at it. Okay, so just depends on how bullish you are. Like people ask, oh, is this going to be the best at home one? It kind of just depends. That the two biggest contenders, in my opinion, are out of now this guy and the Jazz Miner units, right? Arguably the Bombax unit, but because of the price of that thing, that's kind of a different market, right? So under $2,000 isn't a bad price point, because at this point, it is something that could be worthwhile, that could be actually profitable. Okay, so the thing with the gold shells, a lot of people love the price points and such, but it's the efficiency kills you. Realistically, you need a little bit more hash, right, to really make it worthwhile. And that's what you're kind of getting with the second tier of units, right? Because there's these. I guess there should be tiers realistically, like under $1,000 and then under $2,000, right? That should be maybe the cap for the bigger at-home ASICs. So comparing it, like when we compare it with like the Jazz Miner and such, very similar numbers currently. So it's just going to be dependent on which one is going to pump more, right? Will it be ETC or Octa or one of those coins you can mine on there? Or will it be Doge? Will it be Doge, LTC, or now even bells? Also factor in that these calculations are not factoring in bells, which can now be added on. It's now merge mineable. Now it's going to be on there as well. Okay, so do I think it's going to add a ton? No, but every little bit helps, right? For essentially doing nothing, you're going to get a little bit more, so that is something to calculate there as well. So overall thoughts here. Is it bad? No, right? It's actually going to be profitable sometime again in the next 12 months. It's going to look a lot better. Okay, it's just going to be timing of the pricing. Okay, so it just depends on your personal situation. Are you a person who can house the bigger units? Like for me personally, under $1,000 would have been an insta buy, even if it's not really my segment, because at that point it's priced to hash, right? I'm a little bit different in the sense that I can house the larger units, and as a matter of fact, a Scrypt ASIC, if I were to get another one, that's most likely what it's going to be. Okay, so for me, the price to hash ratio is just better with the big boys, which makes sense, but I can house those bigger units. So if you're in a situation though where you want to mine and you cannot house those units, and you have no interest in hosting, you just want to get some exposure, this is not bad, right? Out of the other options, this is one of the better ones. The unit is solid. It is a water-cooled unit. It is going to be extremely quiet. Form factor-wise, it's about the size of a PC. Style-wise, and this is where we're kind of dogging the Gold Shell Echo thing, is that this is something different, right? They are extremely differentiating themselves. The picture of this thing honestly doesn't do it justice. It looks amazing in person. This is one of the ones they had demoed at Mining Disrupt. Very cool looking unit. You see it, it looks like a high-end PC essentially, right? So it is cool from that sense. They are differentiating themselves. It's just I wish that price would have been a little bit better, right? Which realistically, it's not that bad. It's just me being picky about it, right? Will this be the best at home Scrypt ASIC? Most likely, right? I do expect to see something from Gold Shell. I do expect a Echo version of them for the Scrypt ASICs, right? It is one of their most popular. Scrypt ASICs in general are some of the most popular just because of Doge, right? It's very appealing to everybody, right? Whether you're into memes, you're more into the Litecoin aspect, very appealing algorithm here. The other thing to factor in is the potential for those local tech units, right? Which to me, I wouldn't necessarily factor them in. That's why I'm not really talking about them too much until they're here. And it's one of those things that regardless of where you get into, whether you buy one of these Elphapex units or get one of the bigger guys, the appeal for me at least would be it's going to be a way to increase that efficiency. So supposed to be Q1 25, maybe get delayed longer, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does come out by then. Even if I do get, let's say, one of these DG1 homes or an L9, whatever I get, I would definitely still be interested in those in order to just increase that efficiency, right? Because those things are extremely efficient. So if they do come to fruition, they do come out at that price point, that would be the appeal there. It wouldn't be something that I would wait for that local tech. Like, nah, I'm not going to get an L9. I'm not going to get one of these DG home ones because I'm waiting for that local tech. I wouldn't do that. Personally, if you're into either one, whichever one makes more sense for you, depending on your situation, go for it. And then if the local tech does come out, it would just be something to, again, increase that efficiency, add more hash. That's how I would view that as, right? Not necessarily a direct competitor, because, again, we need to see these things. We need to have, like, official drop windows. They need to be out and open for us to really consider them, right? At this point, we know the L9 is here. We know these things are here, right? We've seen them. You've been to Mining Disrupt. You saw them in person. There are unboxing videos. It's an actual thing, right? So that's why we're not really factoring in the local tech here. Okay, so Not a bad unit. Pricing is in line. We're kind of definitely hoping for the highest where it would make sense would be like $19.99. Luckily, they did come in at a pretty good price point. Ideally, the $1,300 range actually makes sense though. Like if that is the official MSRP, they come in at $12.99. The resellers kind of update their pricing and it's more in that range. It's only a couple $100 realistically. That's why, again, it's me just nitpicking. Price wise, it's not bad, right? Especially if you're able to get on that first batch, which I'm assuming they're probably going to make a good chunk of these because these things will sell extremely well, especially if Doge does begin to pump by that time. So this is kind of the danger in waiting with any of these things, whether you're interested in the L9 or the DG1 Plus. The advantage with those pre-orders is that you would be able to lock in that price now. Because again, if you wait by then, like realistically, bros, things can start flipping by the end of next month. Okay, so just kind of have that in the back of your head that if you're kind of on the fence, you're kind of thinking about it, factor that in because again, if things do start turning around, this thing does make it back to its bear market highs. Those prices are going to change pretty drastically because the profitability is going to change pretty drastically. Okay, so factor those things in. Again, overall, not a bad buy. Like it's definitely something that would be on my consideration list. We'll see. We'll see where the pricing goes. But again, my eye is just more on the bigger guys. So that's why I'm in a different boat. But if I wasn't able to do that, definitely an at-home miner definitely would be on my list. Okay, so let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think for you guys who are like at-home miners or solar miners? That's one thing I didn't kind of mention. No, that's been getting a lot of attention. A lot of you guys have been adding solar. 600 watts. It is something you'd be able to feasibly power there. So that is another thing there. So let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Is this something you're interested in? Did you pre-order one already? Because it's not a bad price, especially if you get in early. Because I could definitely see this thing, at least that initial batch selling out. We don't know what future batch is going to be like. So something to factor in there. Okay. But again, let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.